Parking Commission, you may appeal your decision by filing a writ of certiorari with the Davidson County Chancery or Circuit Court. Your appeal must be filed within 60 days of the date of the entry of the Commission's decision. We advise that you seek your own independent legal advice to ensure that your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedural requirements have been met. Per the Tennessee Open Meetings Act, Public Chapter Number 300, members of the public are invited to provide comment on matters germane to items on the agenda. First order of business is the approval of the minutes.
Move to approve.
It's been moved in second. Any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? It's been passed. Second item on the agenda is approval of the minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? And I forgot to ask if there are any questions. Okay, it's been moved and moved and seconded and passed. Next item on the agenda is public comment. I have two names. I'm going to call up Councilman Horton and then Colin, Elizabeth.
Can I speak after the consent agenda?
Okay. All right. Elaine?
Yeah, I'd like to do the same.
Okay, all right. Okay, number 5 is the approval of the consent agenda. Okay. Item 5.1 is the revocation of existing valet permits at 1920 Acadia Street, requested by NDOT. Number 2 is 5.2 is authorization for new multi-way stop control at Robertson Avenue and James Avenue / Westboro Drive, requested by NDOT. And 5.3, authorization for new multi-way stop control for Ewing Drive and Gwynenwood Drive, requested by NDOT.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the consent agenda.
I second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? And I'm sorry, I forgot to ask her, are there any questions? Hearing none. Okay, it's been moved and seconded and approved. Next is item 6.0, the regular agenda. The first item is introduction of new NDOT on-street space rental policy, and that's going to have a presentation. When you come up, please state your name for the record, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Emmanuel Matias, and I'm with NDOT. So what we are presenting here today is technically extension to the existing bag meter policy, as we call it. The previous one was approved in 2021, and then we had an update last year for the rates that would change the price per parking space in CPD and non-CPD area to $28 and $35. However, it didn't really have any other options as opposed to the use case other than parking itself. This extension is pretty much that policy that would extend upon the existing policy in a sense that it would allow space rentals to be utilized for multiple different reasons outside of parking itself. The first one is pretty much just a revision of the current standing policy, which includes spaces that are 22 feet long, whether marked or unmarked, and these would be rented out for businesses or well, usually for businesses, but also for public in general. Usually they are set up for either a vehicle that needs to be parked for an extended period of time, or buses or shuttles for either events, hotels, anything to that extent where space needs to be reserved, and a vehicle would need to be parked there for an extended period of time outside of 2 and 3 hours, which as of right now is still what the maximum allocated and allowed time is downtown. And so this would allow it for the vehicles to park there for extended period of time, whether it's a day or two or more. And these would be paid. This is a paid service, and it's calculated based on the calculation that was introduced in the update of the back meter policy last year. And again, it's $28 and $35 respectively for non-CPD and CPD per space, which is again 22 feet of space. So that would be option number one. Option number two expands on this option of renting for parking purposes only to accommodate valet. And that's something that we currently don't really have as an option. And it would clearly indicate that on the permit itself if somebody were to request it. And the way that looks is that the request would come in, we would establish whether that allocated space that they're requesting is not rented out already, and if it wouldn't be, then we would issue a work order, which then is displayed on the windshield of the vehicle, or in this case, it would be in the valet stand, and then there would be a fee for that as well. So again, currently it doesn't exist. This current policy that I'm presenting here for you today would allow for valets to be used in the parking spaces. This specific one, number two, is for metered space. And then the third one is pretty much the same thing, except it's for an unmetered space, and it also adds a loading zone capability. So if somebody were to get a short-term or need a short-term loading zone to load and unload freight, they would be able to utilize this as well. Currently, this option doesn't exist also, and in fact, we've found some of the loading zones that were approved really long time ago in the 80s and 90s, they're still currently in place. So this gives an option to somebody to do a short-term setup to where they would be able to accommodate their business needs, but then everything would go back to normal, and the curb would become utilized the way it was before the request would come in, instead of it having a long-term effect on either having a request for it being a loading zone or something else, or a valet as well. The difference between number two and number three is that this one would require a lane closure permit, which would ensure the safety of the lane. The loading zone would be up to 30 days, and valet would be up to 7 days in both cases, number two and number three. These are expendable upon request, case by case, but standard will be 7 days and 30 days. And again, this kind of outlines for NDOT to have more control over the curb, whether it is metered or unmetered. And in this sense, metered and unmetered means whether it is signed for paid parking or it is unsigned for paid parking at that time. This is pretty much these are the three options that we would have, because the previous policy really only expanded on the pricing. We thought that it would be needed and helpful for everybody to have these options listed and available to their needs, as well as expanding on the valet and the loading zone possibilities for these rentals. I'm ready to take any questions.
Well, first I'll start in number 2. You can do that once every 30 days for the valet.
Correct. So this is to ensure that if somebody's renting these spaces out for a shorter period of time, it doesn't become, financially it's more feasible to get the annual permit than just renting it out short term.
there's no, for the loading zone in number 3, it's a 30-day period, but there's no limit on how often you can do that?
That is correct.
Is that something you'd be open to adding? So that
Yes,
way
we
it's-
we can add that, and I just want to point out that in the last year and a half, we didn't really have any requests. This is one of those where if it
Yeah.
comes up, we want to be able to provide an option. We can definitely add like a cool-off period, the same way as the Valley has. Yes, sir.
Another question, obviously this is related, semi-related to our expansion of the smart parking and the time that you're allowed to park. Is there an update on where we're at with that?
Yes. We are currently in a stage of the signs being printed, and we should be receiving them all. I believe it was 750 of them, to be exact. They will be coming in next week, and then the following week, we should be, actually, I'm sorry, this week or next week at latest, and then we would start installing these with downtown first and then moving on forward.
Yeah, and that's part of that, like looking back and forth, and it's nice to see it on this side of thinking through the costs that we're doing, and especially since this is pretty clearly set up to also allow for people to park in front of anywhere they want. You know, you have a pretty easy way as that expands out there, where downtown, it's a maximum of 10 hours for $50, but we're also saying that if you want to, you can just get a daily permit for $35. So we're kind of now creating that opportunity of, actually the cheaper option is to make you guys do a bunch of work, run a truck out there with cones to then let somebody park on the street, instead of saying, no, actually $50 is what we authorize you to do for 10 hours.
Correct.
Just go find a spot, 10
Yep.
hours. If you want to reserve it, it should probably add staff costs to that, adding time for you all to go do stuff. So, I mean, I'd almost rather see us also kind of discuss the cost for the daily rental then, in addition to how we now look at some of those areas where it's now, you know, $50, 10 hours, and then this is now cheaper.
Excellent point. And this was brought up also with our director, and our approach to this is that there's been so many changes in the last, 12 months or 16 months, that this would be something that we'll do soon in the future. But we just changed it last year. So again, going through this phase 2 and then having everybody getting used to the 10 hours, and it just seemed like it's too much. But also the second point to that is that you're right, there is labor involved on our end, but that also means that it's approved. So what I want to say is that we have a way to make sure, since we are the ones approving it, that it's not abused.
One final question on that, and maybe this is something that you could bring to the next meeting for it, and this might be a question for legal. The way state law is kind of set up is we have to charge based on like the cost of the service that we're providing. So if there could be some sort of estimate, just to kind of align us on, if there's only one of these and it's outside of the CBD, how much does it cost to send a truck out there with cones, just to make sure that we are charging the right price for this work,
Got you.
in addition to the enforcement of it and everything else.
Understood. So some kind of a labor cost associated with the work that it takes to reserve a spot.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful, just to make sure that we, $28 seems very low to do all that work. Because it is at least 2 truck rolls for cones.
Okay. If I just might add one thing, this is a completely different policy as policy number from the previous one. And again, we're trying to make it so that this one provides options and the one with the price is completely separate. So I'm not sure if we can combine them, but I understand what you're saying. What I'm trying to say with this is we might need to update the previous policy that was approved with the new rates last year. But again, point taken, I'm making notes, we'll look into it.
I think the commission member's first question related to timing of being able to rent. And Eric and I were discussing that the language that was found, I think in the first one or the second one about applicants may rent the same valet metered spaces every 30 days is actually a very similar language is found in number 3. If the second paragraph, 5th sentence from the bottom.
Which, the valet applicants may rent spaces every 30 days?
Yes.
Yeah, I would just, because this part also has my
Loading
question
zone
was
also.
around the loading
But,
zone
yeah.
piece.
Okay.
And just to make sure that people are aware, it's a temporary loading zone that you're asking for,
Okay.
not something that gets extended.
So I did have-
Number 2 is for valet only.
I did have a question about, so would it be tied to the applicant or the spaces? Because if I rent 2 spaces for a valet, and then say we need it again, I have my friend Neil rent the same 2 spaces a week later, would that valet permit would that be allowed? That'd be a different applicant, but it would be the same 2 spaces in the same 30 days?
No, that would be a loophole.
Okay.
No. And also, I just wanted to mention, anybody who would request for the valet spaces, they would need to be permitted to be an operator in the city of Nashville and Davidson County. So it just expands on the other stuff that we have with valet, so there's checks and balances there as well.
Are there any other questions? Okay, my understanding is that we're going to defer this until next month. Is that correct?
Today's discussion on this topic is just as information only. We'll bring this to you for an approval vote next month, so there's no need to defer anything.
Next on the agenda is item 6.2, approval of new paid parking requests by NDOT, and there are 10 of them. Yes. 6.1, east side of Leah Avenue between Peabody Street and Hermitage Avenue for paid 24/7 parking. 6.22, north side of Lee Avenue between Hermitage Avenue and Rutledge Avenue for paid parking 24/7. 623, north and south side of Middleton Street between Second Avenue and Hermitage Avenue for paid 24/7 parking. 6.24, west side of Third Avenue between Lee Avenue and Peabody Street for parking 24/7. 6.25, north and south sides of Goodry Street between 11th Avenue North and 13th Avenue North for paid 24/7 parking. 6.26, east side of 12th Avenue between Gundry Street and Church for paid parking 24/7. 6.27, south side of Commercial Street between Representative John P. Lewis Way and 4th Avenue for paid 24/7 parking. 6.28, east and west sides of 11th Avenue between Church and Charlotte for paid 24/7 parking. 6.29, east and west sides of 12th Avenue North between Goodry and Charlotte Avenue for paid 24/7 parking. 6.210, north and south sides of Lindsley Avenue between 2nd Avenue South and Hermitage Avenue for 2-hour time limit parking, only from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. Are there any questions on any of the items that I just read off? Yes. No, there's no staff report for this one.
And I would suggest that you take them one by one and hold a vote on each one, since
Okay.
they're separate agenda items. I think it'll be cleaner and easier.
Okay. All right, then we'll start off with 6.21, east side of Lee Avenue between Peabody Street and Hermitage for paid parking 24/7. Questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions before we go further? Well, I have a question. Why are we doing 24/7 parking in this area, and what's the economic impact of it?
So we're doing 24/7 because it's part of Sobro, which is still part of the CPD area, which includes downtown, Sobro, and Gulch, and therefore the pricing aligns with that as well. So everything in CPD is technically right now $225, and it's going to be assigned with the new rates. So the enforcement there is 24/7, and then anything outside of Sobro, Gulch, and downtown would be with enforcement up until midnight and then free from 12 to 6. This is not one of those areas.
Okay. I'm always in favor of allowing for as much free parking as possible. So what were the parameters, and because I don't understand, that's why I'm asking the question. What were the parameters or the reasons for deciding to do 24/7?
So, well, the 24/7 only comes from the region where it's in.
Okay.
But itself, the paid parking logic behind it was that all the surrounding streets, or some, well, not all of them, but a lot of them have it already. There is, Pinewood Social is nearby. You have the SN Amphitheater over there. So it's just the overall setup has businesses where it would yield for parking that would allow for people to visit those businesses, and also some turnover for those businesses. If it's free parking, people can just park day and night. This way, there's some turnover enforced within those hours and rates, and it just makes it so that the businesses usually have more customers and available parking for them. And then it would also accommodate, obviously, anything in amphitheater that is longer than an hour, 2 or 3. The new rates and the new structure would also allow for extended period of parking up until 10 hours.
And what will the rates be?
The rates were the ones that were approved last year. So I believe the first 2 hours are $2. Then hours 3 to 5 is $5, and then everything past $5 is $6 per hour, up to 10 hours with the max of 50, I believe.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. The second one, 6.22, north side of Lee Avenue between Hermitage Avenue and Rutledge Avenue for paid 24/7 parking. Questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Ready for the question? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? It is passed. 6.23, north and south sides of Middleton Street between 2nd Avenue South and Hermitage Avenue for paid 24/7 parking. Questions?
Do have one question. Are we able, we also did designated economy parking.
Mhm.
Is that something we could potentially amend a motion on any one of these and add it to a place?
Can you repeat your question?
So we have our standard rates, and we also have a designated economy parking area rates. Are we able to say we want to do designated economy parking in a location?
I think that you could move to do that.
This one seems like it's less busy than some of the other ones.
Middleton,
Yes. Is there
it's always packed.
okay.
So the economies, if I might just expand briefly, the economy zones were set up to accommodate those areas that don't see a lot of parking. So that way, the cheaper rates would attract parkers in areas that are a little further away from the action. But in return for the cheaper rates, it would be a little further away and you might need to use public means of transportation or scooter or e-bikes to get to your final destination. So while we could have them somewhere where where it's, the purpose of the economy zones is to really help those areas that don't see parking. This is not one of those areas. This is packed every day, Monday through Friday. It's full of cars.
But it is currently unpaid parking.
Correct.
If you think that this is appropriate for our regular rates, just keep an eye on it. To
Yes,
see
sir.
if this is one that maybe should be economy at some point.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, looking for a motion.
Move to approve.
Second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? It is passed. 6.24, west side of 3rd Avenue between Lee Avenue and Peabody Street for paid 24/7 parking. Questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Ready for the question? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? It is passed. 6.25, north and south sides of Goodry Street between 11th Avenue North and 13th Avenue North for paid 24/7 parking. Questions?
Move to approve.
It's been moved and seconded. Ready for the question? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? It is passed. 6.26, east side of 12th Avenue North between Goodry Street and Church Street for paid 24/7 parking. Questions?
Move to approve.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Ready for the question? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Yes, sir.
Am I going too fast for this? Okay. All right. It is passed. 6.27, south side of Commercial Street between Representative John Lewis Way and 4th Avenue for paid parking. And because I work at the Nashville Symphony, I'm not going to vote on this, even though I think that I'm far enough away. So, looking for a motion?
I can speak after we do a motion, it's fine.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Are there any questions?
I do.
Yes.
Well, I guess I don't believe there's any need for a conflict of interest for where we work. I also work next door to this. I'm going to vote on it. I feel comfortable that this doesn't impact me that much, or any incentive or anything like that. My question, though, is since I am here all the time, I know this part very well. Go to Panera every day now. But one thing I have noticed is there is motorcycle parking there, which seems like a great idea.
Agreed.
I don't know of any other places within the city that has that. I would like to see more of it because when it is used, and it's used most days, there's multiple motorcycles that are parked there, which from a space perspective seems like a great idea downtown. We want to encourage smaller vehicles to take up space. Are we maintaining the motorcycle parking that's there?
Yes.
Okay, then, yeah, that's fantastic. Would love to see more of those come out. Even if there were more to come to us to approve, that'd be a good idea. That's all I have.
Okay. Do I have a second? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Ready for the question? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? It is passed. Number 6.28, east and west sides of 11th Avenue between Church Street and Charlotte Avenue for paid 24/7 parking. Questions?
Move to approve.
Looking for a second?
Second?
All right. Any questions? Okay, ready for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? It is passed. 6.29, east and west sides of 12th Avenue North between Gudry Street and Charlotte Avenue for paid 24/7 parking. Questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Ready for the question? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? It is passed. 6.210, north and south sides of Lindsley Avenue between 2nd Avenue South and Hermitage Avenue for 2-hour time limit parking only from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. Questions?
What happens after 4 p.m.?
Free to park. Yeah, it's unregulated, so that means it's free to park for more than 2 hours.
Any other questions? Looking for a motion?
Yes, sir.
We need more parking places down here.
Yeah, okay. That's all I had to say.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion
Motion to approve?
and a second.
Second.
Okay,
Step up there.
are we ready for the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, it is passed. Next item, 6.23.
Thank you, everybody.
Reduction of posted speed limit on Whites Creek Pike from 40 to 35 miles an hour between Trinity Drive and West Nocturne Drive, requested by NDOT. Mr. Smith.
Thank you. Andrew Smith, NDOT. I'd like to correct something. This is between West Trinity Lane and West Nocturne Drive, but it's a half-mile segment of Whites Creek Pike. If you'll recall, there was a request in December for a driveway appeal for a project development site along this corridor. That appeal was deferred so that to allow time to do a speed study of this corridor to determine if the posted speed limit actually matched the recommended speed limit based on current conditions. The developer's consultant did do a speed study that initially ran along Whites Creek Pike from West Trinity all the way up to Mormon's Arm Road. And what they found is that the northern segment between West Nocturne Drive and Mormon's Road, the recommended speed limit was 40, and it is posted indeed 40. But the southern segment that is between West Nocturne and West Trinity Lane, the recommended speed limit from that study actually showed 35 miles an hour. They used the same federal speed limit setting tools that we use when we assess speed limits along other pikes and corridors within the county, and they came back and recommended a speed limit of 35 miles an hour that considers roadway characteristics, number of access points, crash history, pedestrian activity, lane configurations, and along with observed spot speeds. NDOT agrees with that recommendation, and we are requesting a new 35 mile an hour posted speed limit along this segment of Whites Creek Pike. Should this be approved by this commission, NDOT will reach out to the community through social media and will begin deploying speed trailers with dynamic message boards to advise motorists of a change in the speed limit. Those will be deployed for a minimum of 2 weeks, after which time that we would change out the actual speed signage.
Are there any questions?
How does this affect the driveway situation that we had?
The driveway situation is a separate agenda item. That's the next item on the agenda, and this recommendation to lower the speed limit is independent of that. This recommendation is based on an engineering study of existing traffic conditions along this corridor.
Any other questions? Looking for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Ready for the question? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? It is passed. Next item is 7.0, unfinished business. Under that is 7.102, consideration for driveway appeal for 2311 Whites Creek Pike, requested by Catalyst Design Group. And Mr. Smith again.
Thank you, Chair. This item was deferred from December, and the reason why NDOT initially denied the driveway connection was because of insufficient intersection sight distance for right-turning traffic based on the posted speed limit. With today's motion to lower the speed limit from 40 to 35, the available right turn sight distance remains the same, but the requirement to have the required intersection sight distance for a right turn at this location will be reduced from 385 feet to 290 feet. And we feel like that we can work, the NDOT development can continue to work with the developer to implement other additional signage and other measures along this approach. And I'd like to recognize the developer's consultant.
Yeah,
Please
hello.
state your name.
Yeah, Andrew Walters, Catalyst Design Group, 5100 Tennessee Avenue. We concur with staff's recommendation. We've been in discussions with staff about this, and if the vote was in the affirmative to do the 35-mile-an-hour reduction as it was, that we would be able to circle back with staff and find a mutually satisfactory solution to that without having to go for appeal. So we're fine to table this and indefinitely defer, and hopefully we'll not have to come back.
So how much time would you need?
We're recommending an indefinite deferral, so that allows NDOT development and the developer to continue working together, and also preserves their rights. If they wanted to appeal something, they could still come back to this commission.
Okay.
Thank you.
So with that, we're going to defer this indefinitely.
I would like to make a motion to that point to defer indefinitely.
Do we need to do that? Okay.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to defer this indefinitely. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any questions? It is passed. Okay, I saw some people come in once we started. Is there anyone else here that has any questions or has anything for this commission? Okay. 8.0, new business. We have none. 9.0, other items, recommendations of the commission, or recognition of Commissioner Woods. Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to, on behalf of NDOT, I'd like to extend my gratitude to Commissioner Woods, who is rolling off of this commission. After 10 exceptional years of dedicated service to the Traffic and Parking Commission, throughout her term, she's helped to make a positive impact to the community, helping to make our streets safer for everyone to live, work, and play in Nashville. Commissioner, NDOT expresses our appreciation for your hard work and commitment, and we wish you all the best in your future endeavors. Thank you for your service, and you will be missed.
Thank you. It's been an honor.
Thank you for your service.
And I would like to present you with this sign.
That is great. It goes in front of my bakery. Thank you. That's great. Thank you very much. I'm gonna have fun with this.
All right.
Does that mean when I come back and ask to say something as a member of the audience, I need to bring this with me every time?
We'll make sure we get you up either way. Okay, item 10.0 is adjournment.
Chair, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
We'll second.
All right, it's been moved and second. All in favor? Any opposed? It is passed and we are done. Thank you.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.